Hey guys, Welsknight here, and welcome back to another episode from the Hermitcraft server. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. I am having a fantastic day. This is the first Hermitcraft episode I have recorded, or will be recording. I suppose I haven't recorded it yet because we're just starting. But anyway, it's the first one that I've done anything with since I got back from Too Many Games, which was a convention that I went to last week in Philadelphia. And I admit, when I went to the convention originally, I intended to essentially, I brought my DSLR, I brought my camera, I planned to record a bunch of it and kind of do like a vlog style recap at the end. But I got there and the atmosphere was just like super chill and really relaxed. And I was like, you know what? I've got my wife with me. This is kind of like a vacation, sort of. It's like a working vacation, I guess you would say, for me. I'm just gonna play it by ear, and I basically didn't end up recording. I think I took like a couple of pictures here and there, but I didn't actually record a whole lot of stuff, and certainly not enough to actually make like a video out of it. So I want to talk today about Too Many Games and what it was. In the meantime, we're going to tear down this villager breeder that I've been meaning to tear down for like 100 episodes, and maybe do a little bit more work over there on the castle depending on how long it takes us to actually tear down Mumbo's villager breeder that he made forever ago. I admit I actually had a plan with this villager breeder. I was going to do this prank. And since I'm not going to do it now, I will tell you what the idea was. My plan was essentially to tear down the villager breeder and then rebuild it block for block right next to Mumbo's base with like a moving truck or two, right? So it was like somebody packed it up and moved it all over to his place. That was my plan, but it just kind of never happened. And at this point, I think I'm just going to tear it down. I'm just going to get rid of it because I don't think that prank is ever going to come to fruition. It would actually take a lot longer than you might think because I'd have to actually, before I tore it down, I'd have to figure out exactly how every block was supposed to go and all that kind of stuff. And at this point, I'm just like, you know what? Let's just get rid of it. Let's just tear it down and not do some sort of a crazy prank with it at the same time. So anyway, Too Many Games. It was a convention. It's in Philadelphia. For those of you who don't know, I did put out like a video before I went saying that I was going, and I've talked about it on Twitter and stuff like that. But basically, it is a kind of general gaming convention, sort of like kind of along the lines of like a PAX or an E3 or something along those lines. It's sort of a general gaming convention. It's in Philadelphia. They had, I think, about 15,000 people in attendance this year, and it was a lot of fun. It was absolutely awesome. I went. There was a Hermitcraft panel while we were there. So basically, just a panel with a few of the hermits. All of the Hermitcraft people were invited. We were all invited to go, but due to the fact that it's in Philadelphia and transatlantic flight is expensive and we all have different schedules and lives and some people don't really do conventions and blah, 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 blah. The three of us that actually went were myself, Joe Hills, and Python, which was... I'm so glad that Python went because I've known Python now as like an internet friend, so to speak, for years. I think I first met Python like probably about two and a half years ago, something like that. I don't know. I've known Python for a long time. But we've never actually met in person because I have never had the opportunity to go to like a Minecon or anything like that. And, it just never really worked out. So, yeah, basically it was really, really good to kind of actually get to meet Python. Joe, I have met before because Joe actually only lives about 45 minutes away from me. So he and I meet up on rare occasions, or like sometime if I'm in Nashville, because I don't actually live in Nashville. I live in kind of like the greater Nashville area. If I'm in Nashville for something, sometimes I'll like get in touch with Joe and be like, hey, you want to go grab lunch or something like that. So I've met Joe before, but I'd never met Python in person, and it was really cool to get to kind of hang out and talk and just it was a great time. But as far as the convention itself goes, it was awesome. We had a Hermitcraft panel that went really, really well. Joe and Python and myself have all kind of said that, like, assuming we're invited back again next year, like, we will probably go again next year. Wifey came, Mrs. Wells, as she was her first ever convention of any kind. She'd never been to any sort of gaming convention before, and she had an absolute blast. Like, it was just really, really good. I had so much fun, and I'm very much looking forward to going back next year. There was a lot of stuff to do. There were a lot of, like, vendors and stuff like that. Like, you could walk around the show floor, and there'd be people there selling, like, rare video games. So if you're looking for that, like, super rare copy of some old Super Nintendo game that you can't find anywhere, like, going to a convention like this would be a place to do it. And I don't know, it was just a really, really good time. And I also got to meet a lot of other YouTubers and creators, many of who I had never heard of before. And we got to kind of hang out. Like, the way that conventions like that sort of work is that during the day, there's, you know, stuff going on at the convention center itself, right? Like, there's all sorts of panels, and usually there's, like, costume contests, and there's obviously stuff on the show floor. There were tournaments. I know there was like an Overwatch, like a fairly big Overwatch tournament that went on, and all sorts of stuff. And then once the convention ends for the day, everybody kind of goes back to the hotel and you know, et cetera, et cetera. But because most of the YouTubers who go are people who were invited by the convention itself, most of us were staying in the same hotel. So, we'd get done with the convention, and then we'd just, like, meet up in the lobby, and, you know, everyone would go out for dinner, or there was a couple, like, after parties where people would get a chance to, like, sing karaoke and all sorts of stuff. It was super, super fun. I got to meet a lot of cool people. And I'm looking forward to meeting up with a lot of those people, you know, next year as well. So I don't know. I've got a lot of good things to say about it. And it was great. But as far as, like, the Minecraft aspect of it goes, the people there who were Minecraft focused, I guess you would say, were myself, Python, and Joe, obviously. And then Jerome ASF was there as well. And I'd never met him before. I think he and I may have, like, chatted on Twitter once or something, but we never actually met in person. So I got to hang out, got to talk with him and hang out for a while. Seems like obviously, I can't say that I know him, like, super, super well, but from what I did gather, he seems like a really cool, kind of genuine sort of guy. So that was pretty cool. We were in a booth. Our booth, our Hermitcraft table, was pretty much, like, right next to him. So, like, our booths were right next to each other. And there wasn't really, like, a huge Minecraft focus beyond that. Like, there weren't tons and tons of Minecraft creators. But that's fine. Like, that's totally okay with me. And this was also kind of the first year where they invited a bunch of Minecraft YouTubers. And obviously the first year there's always going to be less. And then, you know, assuming everyone has a good time, which we did, you know, then we go back to our friends and we say, it was amazing, you should totally come next year. And then next year there'll probably be more and more and more, and, you know, so on and so forth. So I don't know. It was great. And we had a really good time. As I said, my wife, this was her first ever convention. And she loves to travel and, like, do things and go places to eat and all that kind of stuff. I just realized I don't have an ender chest at the moment. I should probably go and resolve that. So there were a lot of places to eat in Philadelphia that we went as well. We went out, there was a place that was right across from the hotel we were staying at. It's called, like, it was like PJ O'Callahan's or PJ Callahan. It was like a burger kind of, it was like burgers and stuff like that. And then it was like a bar and grill, basically. Where do I not have an ender chest devoted to bone meal? I guess not. I guess I just throw it all in here. That's fine. I'm sure Mumbo will not mind that I'm taking these resources because he's got absurd amounts of everything. And if he wanted them that badly, he could have torn this thing down himself months ago. So I'm not going to feel guilty about not returning these resources to Mumbo. We'll call it a tax for leaving this thing on my doorstep forever. But anyway, so there was this, there was PJ Callahan's or whatever. And we went there probably like 3 or 4 times just because it was really convenient. It was right across the street from the hotel we were staying at. It was within walking distance of the convention center. And the food was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was like absolutely incredible. If you're ever in Philadelphia, you must go to this place. And I should also mention, we weren't actually in Philadelphia itself. We were in like the greater Philadelphia area, like northwest of the main city. I forget what it was actually called, but the convention center was called like the Greater Philadelphia Convention Center or something like that. But anyway, so we went there, and we went to Buffalo Wild Wings on the first day, myself and Python and my wife. That was Python's first ever time at a Buffalo Wild Wings, so that was pretty cool. And then there was a place we went to that was like a little dive bar. And if you don't know what I mean when I say a dive bar, basically it's a place that generally looks really kind of run down. It's often kind of dirty. It's like this sort of hole in the wall sort of place. But then often I find that those places are where you can go to get some of the best food wherever it is that you're living. Like these little hole in the wall places that nobody has ever heard of, that are just amazing. And there was this place we went to called The Perky, and they did like barbecue and stuff like that. And it was, oh man, it was to die for. It was some of the best barbecue I've had in a long time. And I live in Tennessee. So yeah, it was a good time. But then disaster kind of struck. So our flights were booked we flew there on Thursday, and Thursday? Yeah, we flew there on Thursday, and we were supposed to fly back Monday morning. So Sunday night at probably about 11 in the evening, we get a message from American Airlines saying, essentially, your flight's been canceled. And I have no idea why it was canceled, because the weather was, there was no like bad weather forecasted for the next day. And the flight itself, the plane was already in Philadelphia, so it wasn't that they were dealing with bad weather coming from somewhere else. So I have no idea. Maybe like the flight crew got sick, or there was some sort of mechanical failure with the plane that they couldn't fix in time. I don't know. But for whatever reason, do I not have an ender chest? I mean, obviously I've got this one here, but do I have an ender chest in here maybe? No? I seem to have lost an ender chest. Okay, well, easy fix. We'll just make another one, assuming I have obsidian. I do. Good. But anyway, so yeah, our flight was canceled coming back. And obviously that kind of put a wrench in my plans, because I was planning to be back. Our original flight was supposed to get us back at like, I don't know, probably noon or so on Monday. And when that got canceled, it kind of, basically American Airlines contacted us and said, well, don't worry, we found you a new flight. We're going to rebook you. And instead of a direct flight from Philadelphia to Nashville, like you originally had, a flight that would take approximately 2 hours altogether, and leaving at like 9 in the morning or whatever it was, instead, we will rebook you to a flight that includes like a 9-hour layover in Dallas and gets you home ultimately at roughly 1 in the morning. So I was like, really? I'm going to spend the entire day flying? Like, I had a direct flight. We were supposed to leave the hotel and be home within like a couple of hours. And then they're like, oh yeah, you're just going to we're going to fly you from Philadelphia to Denver, to Dallas in Texas, which is completely out of the way. And then you'll have a 9-hour layover there. And then once that's done, then you'll finally fly from Dallas to Nashville. And I was like, that's ridiculous. So we contacted them. My wife called. My wife was on hold for approximately 2 hours. And I made some like relatively snarky comment on it, about a comment about it on Twitter. At which point, American Airlines, within a couple of minutes, replied and said, "Oh, if you have problems, send us a direct message on Twitter." And I mean, what a world we live in, where you can get faster customer service on Twitter than by calling a company's actual customer service line. Like, isn't that just a little ridiculous? Am I the only one who finds that a little ridiculous, that you can get faster customer service by not contacting their customer service department, but instead by complaining on Twitter? I understand why, because Twitter's public and customer service lines are not. But like 2 hours we were on hold, and I used to work customer service in a call center. 2 hours, like, people would freak out where I was working if people were waiting on hold for more than like 5 minutes. Like, it was, so I don't know what they were doing for a 2-hour hold time. Probably just canceling everybody's flights and trying to rebook them on flights that had 9-hour layovers. But anyway, we ultimately did get help from American Airlines, and they offered us, instead of the flight with the giant layover that would get us home super late Monday night, they offered us instead a flight on Tuesday morning that would be a direct flight and would get us home by roughly noon. And I was like, that sounds so much easier. And my wife, because as I said earlier, she loves to travel and do kind of like touristy sort of things. And we didn't, since we were in kind of the greater Philadelphia area and not in Philadelphia itself, we didn't really get a chance during the convention to go out and kind of explore and look at cool stuff and, go to a lot of the historical sites in Philadelphia and museums and stuff like that. So we said, you know what? Yeah, let's just do the Tuesday morning flight. And then on Monday, during the actual day, once we leave the hotel, then we'll just go and get a hotel, fairly close to the airport. And then Monday we'll just go out into Philadelphia and we'll go exploring. And that's what we did. We went out to a couple of museums. We went to the Franklin Institute, which is like a museum of science. And then we also went to the, I think it's called like the Museum of the American Revolution, or the Revolutionary War Museum or something like that. Apparently it just opened up in Philadelphia, like within the last couple of months. And it's like the latest museum in Philadelphia. But we went to that, and it was the Franklin Institute was like, okay. They had like this big gaming exhibit where they're talking about kind of the history of video games to an extent, but more about kind of the people behind those video games. They were talking about like different creators, like Notch and Shigeru Miyamoto, and a lot of the big names that you would recognize, and also a lot of names that you might not. Lots of indie games and stuff like that. But they had this whole gaming exhibit that they opened up, and we said, you know what, that could be fun. Let's go to that. So we did, and it was okay. Like, it wasn't bad or anything like that. It just it wasn't like super exciting. It was a lot of exhibits, and it was really cool to see they had a lot of like concept art on display, so you could go and see like a lot of the concept art for these different video games. And that was really cool to see like concept art for Mario and all sorts of stuff like that. But for the most part, like the rest of the Franklin Museum or the Franklin Institute was not that cool. Like, I say that though as someone who's never really been that interested in science. I'm far more interested in history and literature as opposed to science and mathematics. And that's just me. Like, if you're someone that enjoys science, you would probably find the Franklin Institute a lot more interesting than I did. But anyway, so we went to the Franklin Institute, and then we went out to eat lunch at some place. I forget what it was called, but it was great. I remember the food was amazing. It was like a burger place or something like that. And then from there, we went to the Revolutionary War Museum, and that was super cool. Like, it was absolutely fantastic. If you're in the Philadelphia area and you enjoy history and you haven't been to the Revolutionary War Museum yet, go. Like, it was so cool. They had like exhibits, and they had like little sort of, I guess you would kind of call them like reenactments. It was more like moment. Reenactments probably isn't the right term, but they had like these interactive displays where you'd like walk into a room and they'd play like a video, and they'd have like sound effects and stuff, for some of the battles, there'd be like sound effects, so you'd actually feel like vibrations in the floor and all sorts of stuff like that. Like it was missing, the only thing missing from like the atmosphere of those battles was like the gunpowder in the air. Like it was really cool. And then they had a lot of stuff on display. I actually learned a lot of stuff about the Revolutionary War that I didn't know, which was kind of cool because, like I've never been a huge history buff, where I'm not someone who like reads history books in my free time or anything like that. I don't spend a lot of time researching history for fun, but I've always enjoyed history, and I've always found it interesting, at least to some extent, especially when you're talking like the history of wars and military conflicts and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, it was really cool. I had a good time. And there was just tons of stuff to see. They actually had George Washington's actual tent, like his war tent that he used in the Revolutionary War, which had been preserved and handed down for hundreds of years. So that was really cool. I don't know. It was the Revolutionary War Museum was probably the highlight of our exploration of Philadelphia. And before anyone asks, yes, my wife and I, we did indeed get Philly cheesesteaks throughout the course of our trip. So yes, that's not something we missed. Don't you worry. It was, then they were delicious, but I don't know. It was a really good time. It was kind of a nice vacation. It was super nice on Monday to just kind of like relax, just sort of take the day off. Cause the thing with conventions as like a YouTuber or a content creator, especially someone who's been invited, like you go there to have fun, and you do have fun and it's enjoyable. You go there to meet people and stuff like that. But at the same time, like there's still an element of work to it. It's like half business trip, half vacation, if that makes sense. So like you're going there to have fun, and it is sort of a vacation. It definitely helps you kind of break up the daily routine of, your normal just daily grind on YouTube. But at the same time, like it does take a certain amount out of you, like there is a certain level of work involved. You do have to be there at certain times, and you do have to like meet people, and I say that like it's a bad thing, like, oh, you have to meet people. Oh, but that's not what I mean. I mean, like you have people coming up to you and wanting to talk to you and interact, and sometimes you'll have people coming up wanting you to like sign things and stuff like that. And like, don't get me wrong, that's super cool. Like it's always awesome meeting people who are like, oh, you're Welsknight, and I'm like, yeah, I am. Like that's super fun. But at the same time, like it does to some degree cause like a certain level of mental exhaustion. You know what I mean? Like it does take it out of you over the course of an entire weekend. And that's not to say it's a bad thing. It's just the reality of the situation. Like you're constantly moving around and talking with people, and you're constantly having to like do stuff. And although that's fun, it's not really relaxing per se. It's something where you go on this trip and it's kind of a vacation, but by the end of it, you don't really feel like you went on vacation, because you were still kind of working to some degree the entire time you were there. So like, it's super nice. It was super nice on Monday to not do that. It was super nice on Monday to basically just say like, this is a day off. We're just going to go out and we're going to explore the sites and do whatever we want and not have to worry about anything. And it was a great time. And my wife had a blast as well, which I was actually kind of worried about. I was kind of worried that she was going to go to the convention and not have fun, because I wouldn't describe my wife as a gamer. Like she enjoys playing games with me. She enjoys sometimes playing games on her own and stuff like that. And to some extent, she would certainly be considered a gamer, at least a little bit. But at the same time, like she's not super into like nerd culture, I guess you would say. Like she doesn't. If there was like a cosplay contest, right, and there was a whole bunch of people there cosplaying as their favorite video game characters, I would probably be able to look at that contest and look at the different characters that people were playing and say like, I could probably name 90% of them, right? I'd probably be able to be like, oh, that's so-and-so from this game, and that's so-and-so from... My wife would not know like anybody outside of maybe like Mario, Link, and Pikachu. You know, and that's fine. Like she just didn't really grow up in that like group, that social group. That was never really her until she met me, and now she's kind of getting more and more into it, and she, you know, enjoys games, and we play stuff together, and she's very supportive of what I do, but she doesn't necessarily understand the culture that well. So I was kind of worried that she was gonna go to this convention and just feel like really out of place, and that she wasn't going to enjoy herself. But she had a great time. So I was very, very happy that that she didn't that it didn't flop in that regard, that she didn't go and basically just wish that she had stayed home. So yeah, it was good. How much more of this do we have? Just like one layer? I think we have just like one layer and then the outer bits, because I think this is almost done right here. I should probably just move the beacon, maybe? Maybe? I don't know. It's kind of like, do I want to move the beacon or do I not want to move the beacon? Decisions. The jack-o'-lanterns can definitely go. I think we'll just kind of bring this over. But anyway, I've rambled for far too long about this. Especially for those of you who do not care when it comes to too many games. But in summary, I had an awesome time. It was a very, very fun convention. I will absolutely be planning to go back next year, assuming, you know, I'm able to, and that there's not like some sort of conflict or something along those lines. But assuming I'm able to do so, I definitely plan on going back next year. My wife also plans on going back, as do Python and Joe. Hopefully there'll be a couple more hermits there next year, and we'll maybe be able to do another panel. But we'll see. I think it was a great time. I'm very glad I went. And, you know, 10 out of 10 would recommend. For sure. So, guys, I think I'm going to wrap this one up right here. I will probably finish tearing this thing down between episodes. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Links in the description below, so check that out as well. Otherwise, my friends, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.